Well, the film is called The Right to Live, and I'm Michelle Francescos for anybody who is watching. And the film is about all kinds of abuse, domestic violence, sexual abuse, drug, alcohol, bullying, you name it, emotional, mental, verbal abuse. And it shows you where the film originates, where the abuse is originated, and it goes into a back, my brain went blank. It takes you back in time and shows you where everything originated. And it shows you how you get help in group counseling sessions. And it shows you how the cycle of madness can stop. Because it's not just about the abusers, it's also about the victims. It's about spreading awareness and letting them know that they can get help out there and they could overcome their fears and their battles, that they, wear their scars on their sleeves. And it's just that it's a wonderful, positive seeking messaging film. And I hope everyone enjoys it.
Is Nikki present? Is Nikki present for the screen?
Yes, he is. Nick. Say Nick.
Yeah. House. Nikki's here. Oh, I'm so happy Nick is here. This is awesome. We're all kind of together, but yet 700 miles away, which kind of sucks.
Yes.
We're like here, but not.
How's everything?
Oh, it's been a day. Let me tell you, some of the best film screen today.
Fresh, but you look like you're doing good.
Oh, I look exhausted. I feel like I do. Although
no, you look wonderful.
Oh my gosh. Come on. Okay, don't make me start crying. Just start the damn movie before I start crying. So just put a movie on. This is The Right to Live. Okay, so I'm extensively familiar with the film, obviously. So most of the people that are going to be watching this panel will get to learn stuff that they don't know already. So the first thing that I want to talk about right out of the gate is Randy, of course, because you're dynamic with him. You're the partner with him. Okay. So tell me a bit about his participation in the movie, how you convinced him to do it. And, you built him into a monster, a very methodical monster, so to speak. So tell me how he handled that, because not every actor does well with being that abusive, as a character.
First things first, when we did the script, then we had auditions, and then we seeked out, and a friend of ours, Eddie Rocky Rivera, said I referred Randy for this film, because I had worked with Randy on a future project.
Right.
He would be perfect for it. So we auditioned him. He came in, he read the part. He was a little taken back at first. He's like, this is a really huge thing. I'm not sure if I can do it. But he went home and he mulled it over. But then I had to talk with him. I'm like, listen, this may be the part of Jake Connors that's, getting out there being abusive, raping me as the wife. He's a cop. He's, possessive. He's challenged in so many ways. He was verbally abusive. He just couldn't handle that me as his partner was able to get out there and have a successful lifestyle. I'm like, Randy, this is something that would be good for people to learn from. You're going to make a significant difference out there in whomever is watching it. So from him reading it and me having a talk with him saying that, hey, you're going to help save lives, he was hooked from that day forward. Getting into the character, it took a little time, a couple of takes until he had to really dig deep into it, because he didn't want to hurt me as the person. He's like, I'm Michelle, I care about you. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to be perceived as this monster. I said, but this is a character. This is not Randy. This is Jake.
Right. So
he had to be able to separate that and compartmentalize it. And once he was capable of doing that, it was a home run for him.
Oh, sure.
Delved so deep into the character, and he put on such a strong, riveting performance, and nobody could have done a better job than he could have. He's such a huge supporter of the right to live. From the moment he stepped forth on set, that was it. He owned Jake Connors, who went out there always in support of the right to live and making a strong difference and helping saving somebody's life. He's like, listen, if I can save one person's life, whether it be a man or a woman, hey, I'm doing my job. Sure. This is why I took on this role. And he always used to say, like, we're a race star family. He, from the start, he was such a loving and kind human being. And it's such a terrible, terrible loss, obviously to the rest of the world, but more importantly to me, because I had to play, obviously, his wife. And I know the struggles that he went through in life. And when he gave something, he gave it his all. And he just put himself in such a place of, I'm going to give it my all for everything that I do. He was an accomplished boxer, an accomplished award-winning writer. He was a tremendous actor. He was in the entertainment world. He was involved in so many projects. And I'm forever, forever grateful. And I will miss him for an eternity.
Sure.
And the Shelley and Jake story will live on forever and transcend in film, obviously, with the right to live. So I know he's smiling down at us and saying, go, Shelley, tell your story, you know? And he always used to say, I'm going to come back and I'm going to live. Jake's going to live. I'm going to be in the hospital. There'll be a part 2. Don't worry. I'm going to make a new life for Jake. So Jake, you're living on, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to,
Sure.
you know, it's a very hard thing. And I'm just forever grateful to him. And anybody out there who knows him knows what a sweet, sweet guy he is.
Sure.
He gave it his all. He was an
Absolutely.
amazing person.
Now, was he always in your mind the ideal individual to play your husband, or had you toyed around and kind of fidgeted and, you know, placed him in different spots before you put him where he was?
He always was placed there.
Okay.
He was always placed there. Once I saw him read for it.
Mm-hmm.
When Eddie said to me, hey, Shell, I think I had somebody else in mind prior to him, but then we didn't just jive.
Okay.
When he came along and then he read for it. That was it. I'm like, I could work with this. He was a little gun shy at first. He didn't want to hurt me. He didn't want to rate me. He was like, this is not me as a human. I don't want people to chastise me and say, hey, look at you. You're the bad guy. What are you doing, Jake? You know, he didn't want anybody to think of him in that realm. But I'm like, listen, it's not Randy, it's Jake. This is a role that you're playing. Own it and just say, hey, I'm out here making a difference. So what is it to everybody? You know what I'm saying? As long as you have, because obviously this is a messaging film and there's a purpose for this film. And the fact that we wrote this and got out there and shot this, we want to help save lives. We want to spread awareness. We want to give solutions to people so they don't have to live in abusive situations. And just to know that you have hope, faith, and courage to know that you can come out of this okay, whether you're the victim or the abuser.
Sure, of course. Now, I'm the first person to know what you spent on this movie, and clearly, of course, it's self-financed. And we talked about this a bit ago on one of our other panels. So tell me a bit about, you know, when you spend an exorbitant amount of money, because it's a feature, you're employing a lot of people, there's a lot of locations, there's a lot of time, there's a lot invested in this.
Yes.
My question is, because I think this will help other filmmakers, if you went back years ago and said, okay, we're going to redo this again, could you have saved yourself money? Could there have been things that you did? What have you learned? You know what I mean?
I've learned a lot, and I learned what I could do. Instead, I went out there. It was my first film out the gate as far as producing wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that now what I could do with a crew, what I could do with the money being spent, and where the money should be spent on. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have spent so much in so many different avenues. You know, I would have saved money and put it towards the back end of it, post marketing, advertising, mm-hmm. put it towards that. I would have saved on the beginning tiers of it in the financing area. You know, the crew would have been lessened. It would have been channeled more. It would have been as far as actors and so forth and so on. And, you know, I would have done things a lot differently because I know a lot more now.
Sure.
Obviously, I've produced other films. I've worked in production manager, so I know where I could have saved. But it's a learning experience, and I have no regrets. So I went out there. I was so, sorry for cursing, but I was so hell-bent on it.
Sure.
And my husband's like, hey, listen, you want to get out there and make that difference, then go ahead, let's do this.
Right.
So, you know, we sat there and did that, you know, and he financed it. He believed in me. He believed in Nancy. He believed in the message. And he's like, I'm going to do this, you know, but mm-hmm. I could have saved myself a lot of money. It wouldn't have cost the money that it should have cost, but it's a lesson learned. I know what I know now, and future forward is a different story, mm-hmm. but I have no regrets because this film made a difference. Bellevue sponsored it. I've won so many different awards from going to group counseling sessions, to recovery centers, to hospitals, to getting out there to domestic violence shelters. So even from it being on Amazon Prime, and I've gotten various phone calls, various emails, you saved my life. I've passed along your message to somebody else. So if I can do that, it's money well spent.
Sure, of course.
So that's the biggest thing for me.
Someone had asked me not so long ago, and I couldn't remember the answer to the question because it's been a while. Have you utilized actual victims or survivors within the course of the movie?
No, we did not seek out somebody who was, hey, we didn't have like a thing saying, hey, if anybody was victimized, please come here. Let's audition for the film. No, we did our due diligence. We did research. You know, I myself was a victim. Nancy was a victim. So that's where the script came from. But during the process of filming, during group counseling and so forth and so on, there were individuals who are acting in our film came and said, hey, I want to share this. Doing this film has maybe brought out and say, this is what has happened to me.
Sure.
So they understood what this did for them. So it made awareness come to the forefront for them, and it made them share, it made them heal in a sense. So that was really important. But we knew enough as far as abuse to talk about it, to write about it, and to produce this kind of topic, because, you know, you can't just go all half-cocked and say, hey, I'm going to put a film together without knowing what you have to know. So I can speak to myself that I'm a survivor, so I knew what I was writing about. I went to therapy. You know, my family went into therapy, you know, when I was a sibling. So I understood that lifestyle. And when Nancy and I met, we, you know, obviously sat down and wrote a script about it because we were compelled to do something about it. We wanted to say, hey, enough is enough. And we are strong enough, we are survivors, and we want to make that difference.
Now, in doing this sort of film, obviously, when you're a survivor, one of the things that one has to ask, of course, is, does it make the trauma more intensive for you, or, you know, more intimidating for you? Meaning, if you're having to recreate scenarios or things that have been so traumatizing for you, you know, is there blowback for that, for you or her or both of you?
No, because we knew enough, we were healed enough to get there. But when you are doing that, and when you are channeling your inner strength, you have to push forward as the actor, and knowing that you have to compartmentalize that, but you also have to push through, and you can use that emotions during the process of while you're acting, per se.
Sure.
And when you want another actor of ours to get that emotion out, so you know deep down on what it should look like, and it could read into the camera. So it has to look natural, it can't look forced. So it has to be believable at the end of the day. So was it hard at some portions? Of course it's hard, but you have to keep telling yourself we're doing this for a reason.
Yep.
So that's our driving force for that.
You betcha. The music obviously is far different than one would have expected for a film like yours. In fact, a couple of people who had seen it had said to me, you know, I'm not sure if the match, you know, is ideally perfect, but there's a reason you picked those individuals to contribute musically. So tell me your history with them, and how do you feel it adds to the film?
Well, the scoring obviously come from John Rivera, and then the music department was Eddie, and then it was Danny.
Right.
So the scoring came from that, but musically, we wanted to create our own music. Those are all our songs for the most part. I would say about 80% of it is ours. So we wrote them, and obviously we had help with obviously producing the beats and the songs and the scoring and stuff like that, but we wrote the music to that.
Gotcha.
Songs that were sung. There was only like 3 songs that were out there by JV, Soul Ambitious. They sang a couple of songs, and etc. Obviously, he sang a song and contributed to that. So when I edited it along, you know, I had help, obviously, you know, I sat down and said, all right, what songs do we have? Because we wanted to have the sole rights to it, because we were early on in our career. So could we afford to go out there and license somebody else's music? So it all falls upon that. That costs a lot of money. And by the end of it, when you're in post, you have to think about what is left in your little kitty. So her and I were obviously writers. So we sat down, we wrote songs, and we hired artists to sing them. And that's what we did. And we put them in accordingly. You know, some of the songs, I'm sure they didn't match, but we did it to the best of the ability. You know, like obviously the club scenes was more hip. Obviously, when there's more somber music, was obviously for this, you know, when there was abuse situations. And the one Wake Up in the end, I wrote that for an anti-bully campaign, because that's all about bullying. It's about wake up. Like everybody's soul needs to be woken up from that. So that's, you know, the reasons behind the music. I'm grateful to whoever was involved in making The Right to Live, whether it's our producers, obviously, you know, Frank Callow, Joe Wallace, our producers, our fantastic cast. Jim is over here, obviously my executive producer, and obviously to the remainder of our cast, which was our lead actors. You know, they did a truly phenomenal job. You know, without them, none of this would be possible. You know, I have to give my hats off to our lead actors. I mean, they did fantastic. Obviously, I'm going to give some shout outs to, Eddie Rocky Rivera. He played alongside Francine Mancini and Francesca Callo, who's in a lot of different features now. She's doing a phenomenal job. Obviously, there's Michael Voight and Alexis Muniz, another lead actors, and they have the 2 children. And then you have, obviously, myself, and then Randy, and we have Nancy, obviously, and Ashley Cruz. So they did a phenomenal job. And obviously, we have the lead over here, the counselor. Say hello, Jim.
Hello.
Say hello.
It's weird to not do this in New York. You know what I mean? Because last time we did this in New York, and it's like so different now. Obviously, it's. I have to ask you guys in Staten Island, of course, how things are going. Because Michael was in Queens. You guys are in Staten Island, but you're still in New York. So how are you all managing with what's going on right now?
Managing
the best we can.
Exactly, one step at a time, one day at a time.
The best we can.
Listen, you all have to take care, take proper precautions.
Right.
But the most important thing is that you have to live.
Yes.
You can't succumb to this. And I'm a firm believer, if we're going to be debilitated by this is going to suck us up alive. And then what good or use we are to our families.
Sure.
And we're not doing justice for the rest of the world. We're going to sit here and wallow. Who's going to feel sorry for us and come and visit us? What are we going to do with ourselves?
Sure.
We have to do what we love at the end of the day and be happy with what we have. Thank God that we're alive, we're healthy. That's the most important thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting out there and surviving in the entertainment world as far as business goes with COVID, that's a different story.
Right.
But it's going to come back, and you just got to keep positive. You do.
Sure.
We all have, projects that we want to be on and be doing,
Right.
Phenomenal actors. Your own. He did a phenomenal job in the film. He played opposite.
Yes. Great opposite.
Yes.
Exactly. Which was awesome. Yeah. I mean, we take you take your precautions, but you got to keep living. You got to keep the right to live. Right?
Absolutely. And the hard part is with all these restrictions, it's almost impossible to be able to film, clearly. New York is far more restricted in terms of dining and places you can go and what you can do. And I fear for our actors and producers and filmmakers and writers. And, it's a very discouraging time right now. It makes it really tough, to try to get out there and keep creating more art and to stay employed and to be relevant, of course, just doing this whole virtual thing. It's just so not the same, that we don't get to network and do the same things that we want to do. I want to talk about the acting in the movie and more specifically to the gents here. When you work on a production like this, it's very clear to me that there must be a lot of emotional baggage that goes into it daily. So how do you digest that and kind of just disinfect yourself at the end of the day, so to speak? Because I imagine it'll eat you up once you get sucked into this story.
So, depending on how, some actors have techniques for doing all that, washing it off or whatever, thinking good thoughts and all that. I mean, for everyone, it's a little different. I personally like to listen to music. I like happy music.
Okay.
When I'm playing a role, music is a big part. Like there's songs that play in my head when I want to play certain roles. So anyway, when I want to find my happy place, that's for me. That's what I do. I listen to songs that make me smile and happy to get back to a certain place, especially if I have to have really dark moments in scenes.
Sure.
That's what I do. What do you guys do?
Go ahead.
Well, my role is the counselor. So my job was easy. It's really about giving and listening and understanding and trying to give back. And I've always taken that to heart, me personally. And so this was a very easy role for me because it's really about, the idea that it's never the victim's fault. It's really about, that they're okay and they have to move forward. And so, for me personally, I found this uplifting because it's really about, I got to give all day on set, and then that's what I believe in anyway. So I find that very encouraging.
And for you, Shal, I mean, what is your technique in terms of kind of shaking this all off when it's just so, like I said, traumatic and so intense?
Very traumatic. What you have to do is push it off. Like you said, you have to just dust yourself off and say, this is just a character.
Sure.
Just keep in your head that this is just not me. I'm not Shelley. I'm Michelle, but I'm not Shelley Connors. I'm Michelle Francesco's. I am not that girl. I'm not going to wallow in and have to struggle to get out from an abusive marriage. I don't have to deal with that. I go in, I do my job, and I leave, and try the best that you can to just push it off and know that at the end of the day, it's not you.
Sure.
You know, that's what you have to do. And like he says, listening to music, you know, when you're coming off of a huge scene, like when I was, obviously I went through a lot of abuse in that film, you know, you have to take a minute and take a breath and go, centerize yourself between takes, obviously, because it takes a lot out of you emotionally. It takes out of your soul, because when you give that role, you're giving it your all, you're giving it with your everything. You know, you have to channel it. You have to really be and embody Shelley. And you have to know what she's experiencing. You have to be able to show every little inch of emotions on your face. Because that kind of role is not, hey, how you doing? It's all about expression.
Oh, you bet. Well,
So you have to
plus,
take a deep breath and just like walk away and take like 5 or 10 minutes for yourself and compose yourself and then come back in.
right.
You know?
Oh, sure. Now, part of you, of course, part of your filming involved children, clearly. And so when you're dealing with this sort of subject matter, as we all know, the last thing you want is to have children exposed to things like this. And here they are, and they're part of this.
Mhm.
So, you know, how did they react, or how appropriate was it for them? Meaning that, you know, at a certain point, was this becoming too much? Because for children, that's a whole nother level when it comes to abuse, even
Well,
just when you're mimicking it, so to speak.
of course. I mean, when the children were on set, their parents were there.
Sure.
We expressed to them what the scene was about and made them comfortable during rehearsals, explained to them what this means, what's going to happen. And if they were not comfortable with it, then that's it for them.
Sure.
You know, we would not push the limits on anything that they weren't comfortable with or anything that their parents weren't comfortable with. Because that's the most important thing. I don't need to scar a child. I wouldn't
Sure.
be able to live with myself. So the boundaries is the boundaries they can go with and what their family was comfortable with. They had, you know, permission. They were talked about obviously prior and extensive, you know, details. We had them in front of us prior to them. We sat down with them and the parents go over everything and what the scene entailed. Obviously with the script, they read it, they had questions. We had that, you know, give them their answers until they were comfortable with it. When they said they were comfortable with it, then we rehearse. And then you just go and go until you know that the child is comfortable. And if they're not comfortable, then that's okay, we stop.
You
We
betcha.
don't ever push anybody outside their boundaries.
Oh, sure. Now, when it comes to the actual filmmaking component, somebody had asked me about this when they saw that, which was when you're recreating, like earlier we talked about Rocket Gibraltar, of course, there's guns going off and weapons being used, and you know how you have to recreate.
Yeah.
Well, same situation when it comes to a man hitting a woman or
Yes.
some of those physicality or physical scenes and such. How tough are those to do? Meaning, are you able to continuously do take after take after take? Because I think mentally that's draining, and more so, you know, I wonder, are people getting hurt on the set? You know, you don't mean to have that happen, but you know.
There's a stunt coordinator for that to make sure everything is okay.
Okay.
So you having your stunt coordinator there at all times with the director and
Sure.
so forth, and with the actors on set. They go over the scene, you rehearse, and they tell you where you should go, what blocking as far as, you know, when Randy was hitting me and stuff,
Right.
they block everything out. So we as the actors know what to do so nobody gets hurt. Because that's the most important thing that set. Nobody ever gets hurt on set.
Oh, sure.
And if you need that time to go back after the take, and then if the stunt coordinator says, hey, listen, this is what has to be done, and then we listen to him because that's his job, that's his field. He's the expert there. He's there for a reason. And there's a set medic in case of something that happens, God forbid, on set. Thankfully, no, nothing ever happened. But that, you know, those things are protocol, and that's what's in place for when you're on a set that has an action type of style film. There's always a stunt coordinator, there's always a set medic there to help out with. That's what they're there for. So we always rely on them. That's their position. They help us as the actors and the director. They converse before time during pre-production. Everything's all planned out prior to it.
Sure. Now, looking back, all of you collectively, because I'm sure you've watched the film a number of times, are you still at the same point where you're pleased, or do you still find yourself picking it apart? Like, oh, you know, I should have changed this, done this, that sort of stuff.
I mean, I'm always going to nitpick things.
I knew it.
Of course, because I'm an editor.
Yes.
So I'm always looking to reinvent or do. But this is not the end of The Right to Live. This will be distributed elsewhere out there because the message is not done for me. So I
Sure.
always want more. But you know what I'm saying? If I had to go in and do another version, I would love to get in there and dabble. But I have put it to bed as far as that.
Oh, sure.
You know, if I can redistribute it out with somebody else, I had it on Amazon Prime for a couple of years, but I
Right.
want more for it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? It will find its home. I have a lot of people that are interested in it. So
Nice.
therefore, you know what I'm saying? It's still
Sure.
showing. People are still watching it. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yep.
still doing its justice.
You
You
bet.
know, I'm thankful you had us, you know, a part of it because it's helping spread the message.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. The other thing that I look at when I look at this film collectively is you've got so many different personalities on here. Clearly, I met Artie when I was in New York for another film that there was that, and I can't tell you how perfectly that was pairing. You know, that soft, gentle. He's just so lovely. You know what I mean? He's like the perfect guy to play that role. You know, he's just so tender and understanding. And I'm like, God, I'm Team Artie. Who isn't Team Artie? It's like that's like the
Everyone's
perfect
Team
role.
Artie. When Frank Callow, the producer, he sat there and said, Michelle, I have a perfect guy to play, you know, obviously the director, you know, the group counseling. You
Sure.
know, he had his counselors, obviously, you know, Nellie Vasquez, who was one of them, and obviously Jim was, you know, but he said, I have the perfect person.
Right.
And he's certainly correct in that. He
Oh,
was
God,
so
yeah.
soothing, he was poetic, he was so calm. And when I had to do a scene with him, I was like, yes, thank you. Thank God. Because I was capable of like expressing so much to him.
Sure.
You know, who doesn't want to be opposite him? You know, he's just a great actor, but more importantly, a great person. And he was kind enough to do this film.
Sure.
So I was like, you know, so blessed for that.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely. And, you know, obviously, of course, I know you co-produced and put it together with Nancy. And so one of the things that I was thinking about today was now that you two have partnered together and put this production together, looking back when you were first creating it, would you have made it shorter or even longer? You know, that's one of the things I wondered if you guys ever talked or even
I would
addressed.
have liked to maybe made it to an episodic.
Ah,
Because we can make that into a storyline where we're following the four couples, separating them and following their lives instead of, you know, conjoining them all together.
sure.
You know, there was so much. If I had to redo it, I would do it a little bit differently now. But I do think that it being episodic would make a great, you know, series.
Sure.
Because, you know, follow one storyline and one at a time. Like, you know, this week it's going to be about Shelly and Jake. Next week it's about, you know, Rick and Alexis and Michael Voight and Alexis. You know, it could be
Right.
about their characters. You know what I'm saying? It's just there was so many storylines in there, and all of the group counseling. You know, is the supporting. You know, they themselves had great little, you know, intricates in there. You know what I'm saying? Had so much going on. So I do believe like an episodic would be good for the right to live.
And
You
for
know?
those that are listening in, you made this film when? You wrote it, shot it, finished it when?
Wrote it, we started in 2012. We shot it, I'd say about the 214 marker.
Okay.
And then we went back in and did some reshoots. And it was released 2018.
That's what I thought. Okay, so it's been about 2 years or so. And you did your festival run, of course. Do you remember how much did we accumulate in terms of awards, etc.?
Like 3, 4
gosh.
awards for that.
Wow.
3, 4 awards, I would say, right? A lot
Yeah.
of obviously recognition awards, you know,
Sure.
from recovery centers as well. We had a proclamation, you know, from the senator in Long Island.
Right.
You know, so many people that have, you know, given credit for this film, and I'm so proud. You know, it's a great thing. And to have Bellevue say, hey, listen, we love this film. We want to sponsor it. And they utilize that like inside of their programming for their
Right.
sessions. So, you know, that's like a huge, you know, kudos. I was like, wow, we have
Absolutely.
some type of difference. You know, it's like not a pat, but it's just I wanted to do good with this. You know?
Well, that's why I was wondering if this was, you know, if you're starting to get it into more of these places, meaning, you know, shelters or domestic abuse facilities, things like
Yeah.
that.
A lot of
That's a
press
necessity.
coverage we had, you know, like a New York One News, New York One, obviously international newspapers, magazines, had a lot of news coverage for this. You know, been on a lot of different like little tiny talk shows or whatever.
Sure.
Like that, radio, obviously. You
Right.
know, a lot of good interviews that went for the right to live. You know,
Nice.
could there be more? Obviously, you know,
Always.
not because I want to generate money. I don't mean it for that. I mean it
Right.
for, I want, like, you know, having it in your festival, like somebody saw it, they can go home and say, you know what, I recognize these signs. They're like
Absolutely.
telltale signs.
That's the one thing I will say is the greatest award that we could ever get is to have somebody see this movie and then realize they need help and go and seek help.
You
I
bet.
think that would be the best award,
Exactly.
regardless of any accolade. Any
Absolutely.
individual that could see that and recognize that in their own life or in themselves. That's really what this is all about.
Oh, you betcha. Absolutely. So my real question is, so what's up next for all three of you? What's going on? What's the next project now?
COVID.
Yeah.
COVID.
Oh,
I wrote another script.
okay.
I wrote another script called Just Be Yourself.
Ah,
And I wrote that during the COVID time. So I did write another script. I'm producing a lot of different projects.
Right.
So I am doing that.
Gotcha.
And maybe I'll take a dab into the acting world again.
Ah,
So
look
that
at
I'm
that.
doing. And obviously I'm in producing, yes, like a lot of different projects like Gravesend and a lot of other ones. So proud of the ones that did come out
Sure.
last year, you know, did a lot of like music videos and stuff. But go ahead.
You know, obviously with COVID, you know, a lot of it is like EcoCast stuff. Auditions are
Sure.
starting up.
Sure.
I did a stage reading with some good folks. I managed to actually shoot my first. It's basically for a sizzle for an episodic. So that was
Oh, nice.
yeah, my first post-COVID kind of shoot thing. And I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
But the nice thing is, it looks like the industry's slowly starting to open up.
Very slowly.
You
Absolutely.
know, but it's and as usual, you know, indie has a huge part to play. I mean, the big folks are doing stuff too.
Sure.
You know, obviously, we got, you know, Unhinged is taking some bold steps. You know, with Russell Crowe,
Oh, yeah.
big production is obviously making a push and leading the
Yep.
way too. So it'll open up.
It will.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely. It'll take some time, but I think we'll all kind of slowly, like you said, get back to normal and continue doing things that are
Yeah.
beautiful.
Continue to
inspiring.
do your passion in another way.
And,
Yes.
and New York is actually in a great position. We're probably the forefront in the country as far as safety and preparation
Sure.
for projects to happen.
Yeah.
LA is up and down.
Oh, yeah.
At least New York is really ready and primed to go. I know I've been talking about 4 different projects with different people.
Oh, nice.
It's really about getting the finances and getting things
Well,
ready.
that's what it is.
Absolutely.
People want to know that the money they're investing is, you know, gonna
Sure.
not get
Sure.
wasted. But you know, we're all primed and ready to go. It's
I'm ready to
just a
shoot my pilot.
They're like, let's get it going.
matter-
So
ready
this
to
is
go. Yeah.
This is what I have to say to you folks here. Since our time is officially up, I have one more interview that I have to do, and I'm finally off the clock for today. Tomorrow's the big day. For one, I have an announcement for your crew at the awards ceremony tomorrow. So if at least Michelle can make it tomorrow, you should come to the awards. I have some news for everybody there. That's number one. Number two, I've told you this for a very long time. I jump at every opportunity to show your work, and in particular this film. I'm extremely proud of the work you've done. I have been for a very long time, but this one in particular is very close to my heart. The fact that Randy was in it, of course, was just even more bittersweet because I'm like, he's not here and it's something that should be done, you know? So I think the biggest thing that I can do for you all is to say how proud I am of this work, and hopefully if I was able to help you in your mission, then I've accomplished something.
100%.
Nothing else, you know, new eyes have seen this, etc., and it should continue to live on and grow and get bigger, but I don't want to give away too much before tomorrow night. So all I can say is I'm so sorry that we were so far behind. I am so grateful that you let me do this again. I need to get back to New York sooner than later, and then I will actually be knocking on your doors so that I can see you and Samuel. I miss you. I miss you very much. And so I just want to say that I love you and I'm proud of you, and boys and girls, thanks so much for everything that you've given me.